This is going to be a really cool video because it's going to help you shift your perspective. When you get angst or you see something that looks a certain way, with just a little shift of your lens, you're going to experience it in a whole new light. So hang with me. I've got many stories, and then I'm going to bring it right into what we're dealing with currently. Everything is about how we perceive and we see things. When I was working with kids in prison and they were really rough and had rough backgrounds, or when I was working with gang kids, they came from a completely different lens and perspective that I had to learn so I could meet them where they were. When you look at somebody and you have a prejudgment, you see them as that person. If you shift your lens, you'll have a different experience with them. Let me give you an example. We had this student, Ramon. Everybody told me, Ramon's the instigator, he's the class clown, he's a pain in the butt, he blah, blah, blah. And I don't like them to tell me any of that because I just want to see them in that moment in a completely different light. The perspective of genius, perspective of maybe a little wounded, and from the perspective of love. So Ramon disrupts the class. I keep Ramon after class. And I said to Ramon, do you realize what an amazing leader you are? And he looks at me like, get real. And I said, don't you see how everyone in the class follows what you do? Don't you see everybody laughs at your jokes? You have so much power, and we're so lucky to have you in this workshop. And he just stood there. And I said, you can go. And he couldn't even move. It was so foreign to even hear that perspective, that he was taken back. Ramon became my class ally. If anybody got out of line, he was right there taking care of it for me. Because now he started to get a glimmer of his strengths because someone saw him differently. What power you have. If you can start looking at people from a place of love and see them with a different lens, you can change their life. Another quick example is I was working at Bob Hope Academy in Ohio, and the students were bipolar, schizophrenic, they had depression, some pretty severe things, and they couldn't even have a group discussion. I had to go one-to-one like that with them. And so to me, I just thought they were incredible students filled with so much potential. And we were coming to a part in the workshop where we were going to do a visualization. And that means they'd have to shut their eyes and they'd have to meditate. Well, the normal person in me says, you got to be kidding. There's no way these guys are going to do this. And then that other higher part, that love part, said, how can I meet them where they are? And so I asked everybody, how many of you guys trust me at this point? Everyone's hand went up. And I said, would you guys like a really good high? And they're like, whoa, yeah. Now I've got their attention, right? And I explained what would happen in the meditation, how they'd be lying down, how they'd have their eyes shut, and they'd have to have complete trust that everything was going to be okay, and that we'd have the different officers in between them so that they would be safe, and that they would get this tingly, warm, floating sensation. Something really unusual would happen. Well, they were like, whoa, all in. And after that experience, they could carry on a normal group discussion in the class. The staff was like, I can't, they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Why? Did anything change? The only thing that changed was my perception of they can't do this, they're not going to be able to, my gosh, they've got so many severe issues. No. Love came in and said, what can we do? Let's meet them where they are and help them have the greatest experience possible. And that is what won. When you look at somebody and understand maybe they're coming from a different place, maybe they've had a different experience and they believe and think the things that they do in their life, not because they're less than you are or because they're inadequate or they're idiots or whatever you might think. It's because they have had a different experience, which has created a different belief system, which brings me to today. So there are people that are judging people because they wear masks or don't wear masks. Okay, so some people have PTSD related to having their face covered. You might not think that, right? So that's a big deal. And then other people are even outside where it looks completely safe. Everybody says it's safe and they've got double masks on and they're riding on bikes or they're walking, and we may go into judgment for that. So if we knew about the PTSD, if we knew that they were highly at risk or had relatives that were highly at risk, would our perception change? How about the perception of the vaccination, no vaccination? Some people have had horrific experiences with vaccinations that have destroyed their lives, including some people that have had autoimmune diseases and got several vaccinations and then had some severe reaction afterwards. And then other people have had the opposite happen because somebody wasn't vaccinated or somebody gave them a disease because they weren't protected from that person. So if you really understand what's happening behind the mask, wow, it's a whole new experience. After the election, I listened to the conservative station, I listened to the liberal station. Completely different realities. And it was so fascinating to me because I was then able to understand where each political party was coming from and where my friends were coming from. I always thought it would have been a really cool thing to have the students, when Hillary and Trump were running against each other, to have the Hillary voters have to debate, but debate in favor of Trump, and vice versa. Have the Trump voters have to debate and defend Hillary, because that is an opportunity to grow and to learn and to see different perspective. Why would we let different perspectives or belief systems or other people's different experiences take us out of our place of love? Oh yeah, that's the answer. Love is it. This is the thing that changes people's lives. This is the miracle worker. All the religions and all the spiritual gurus and all the stuff out there all talk about love. That's the commonality, because that is where all the power is. Are you choosing fear and judgment because you don't know the circumstance, so it's easier to judge? Or are you looking at them with a new lens and saying, wow, maybe they're coming from this perspective because they've had a completely different experience than I have? Wouldn't that be great if we looked at this, everything that was going on in the world, as an opportunity to shift our perspective, to raise our consciousness, to raise our vibration into a place of love, because that is the game changer. And when we get out of this place of fear and judgment, I've even judged the judgers, okay? So yeah, it happens on all levels, and we just come from a peaceful place of love. Wow. How do you get there? Meditating, being quiet, going in nature, and getting into a more peaceful place that will now give you the answers. Because I'm telling you, in my 20s, I thought I knew the answers. And now at 60, I realize I don't even know the questions. So let's work on getting the great questions out there that are going to make a difference. And that is the biggest one of all. What would love do now?